ምልኤላዊው ዘመን የአምላክ በረከቱ በኢትዮጵያ ትንሣኤ ዘመነ ሁለቱ ስትሰሙ መለከት ወደ ምስራቅ ተመልከቱ አበባዬ ሆይ አበባዬ ሆይ ባልንጀሮቼ ቁሙ በተራ እንጨት ሰብሬ ቤት እስክሰራ እንኳን ቤትና የለኝም አጥር እደጃ ጥላለሁ።
Yeah, people often ask why Ethiopia, and there's not really any logical reason for that, but there are a lot of compelling reasons why we come to Ethiopia. Firstly, Ethiopia is a desperately poor country in great need of help. It doesn't have the natural resources that many other African countries such as Namibia and Angola and Congo have. It's very poor. The per capita income in Ethiopia is under $125 US a year. There's huge shortages of water, there's regular drought and famine. So there's a great need.
So there's a couple young shepherds standing beside us. They've just brought their cattle down for water at this river where we're going to build a bridge. And you can see that some of them are probably 3 years old. The cattle are complaining right now, 2-3 years old. They've got sticks. After they water the cattle, they're going to take them back into the fields. I'm going to tell you right now that it's probably 35 degrees out here, baking, parching. And they'll stay there all day, probably until about 6 o'clock at night, and they'll bring the cattle back to their homes.
We've just been visiting one of the kindergartens that are supported here in the alternate education program and learned that the children don't have water all during their class time. They have water in the morning, and this is the source that they get it from. A source of water that they share, as you can see, with the animals. And the waterborne diseases obviously are a real issue. And this is an area that we would be considering looking at a protected spring so that the families and the children can have access to clean water.
But we won't do a project unless the community buys in. And the reason we do that isn't just to empower people. It's so we know that the community needs the project.
Well, I think the most interesting part of my work is communities would come to us and with a project idea. And then I come to the community and talk to the people, see the problem for myself. And when we agree to do the project, we sit down and negotiate on the price, how much each party would share.
The reason for the name Partners in the Horn of Africa is to get away from the typical view that people who are with us on projects are beneficiaries. That was typically the view toward foreign aid for many years and wasn't very productive. We wanted to emphasize with our name that we are working with people in Africa, that there are partners. What that means it doesn't just mean that they have a title, it means that they share in the decision making and that they participate in the project. And the reason we want that is that we believe that if you're really going to empower people, you've got to get them involved in decision making gradually, and over time they'll be able to do it entirely by themselves.
So once we made the deal, then communities become so happy, and then Tesfaye, our engineer, would come here and train them on how they can supervise the work of the contractor. So they'll be here all the time. And finally, the other moment, the most interesting moment, the construction period, it may have, ups and downs, But finally, when everything is complete, once again we come together and celebrate our success. And usually the communities come up with the next project and with their contribution. That's the most interesting part of the work we do.
Let me tell you a bit about our reforestation project in a community called Dinser Matakar. Ethiopia's got 1% of its natural forest remaining. The wood has been stripped from the mountains and the hills for cooking fuel for the 85 million people that are in the country. The result of that is incredible erosion in great farmland. And it's often said that the Nile Delta in Egypt is the topsoil of Ethiopia because all that water runs down the mountains. Remember, Ethiopia is a mountainous country. And it goes into its tributaries of the Nile, into the Nile, to the Sudan, to Egypt. So as a result, there's huge erosion issues in Ethiopia. Our project covers 12 hectares. Before you get to the 12 hectares, you climb 1,800 feet through eroded soil where the dust is everywhere, where nothing is growing except some dry weeds, and there are huge rivulets have run down the mountain creating trenches.
So here we are, halfway up to one of our projects, which is a reforestation project.
We hope it's halfway.
Yeah, you're right, we hope it's halfway. Might be just a quarter of the way.
Then you come to the project area, and the first thing you see are the men that are guarding it. They guard it from sheep and goats that might destroy what is in there. At the ground level, the planting's only occurred, I think, 8 months ago. So the saplings, 66,000 of them, are only about anywhere from a foot to 3 feet high. All of a sudden, you see that there's 12 hectares that in a couple of years is going to be completely different from all the area around it. The first thing you notice is the smell. You smell the flowers, etc. Here's a eucalyptus tree. If you put your hand on the surface, it's dry. If you go down, it becomes wet and cold at the bottom. Put your hand in it, you'll see that it holds the moisture. And now we've got eucalyptus. There's one up there that you'll be able to climb next year. It's about a meter high. So now all of a sudden you can see the transformation. Before it was yellow and scarred everywhere, but now you've got flowers. You've got something that looks like canola over there. And all these trees have survived the rainy season.
There are guards looking after this area. So by doing so, some of the indigenous species that have long extinct, were not found in this area, they grew by themselves. So you see, this is asset, as I call it locally. You see lots of them, not planted, but growing by themselves.
But you notice right away the smell, and we went a little further than this. But another 100 yards, I put up a covey of grouse. Birds have just never been here before, they're seeing again. So eventually, these trees will prevent all of that erosion down there. And that land that's scarred beyond belief, in 6 or 7 years, we'll be able to fill those ditches, put protection, and restore all this farmland. And that's significant when you think that the average farmer in Gojam has half a hectare. So there's a livelihood down there for 50 or 60 families, just as a direct result of this project. And the way it worked was the local government provided us with 65,000 seeding. That was their contribution. They assigned an agricultural officer to oversee it. The community did all the planting and the guarding, and we paid the cost of hiring the planters and putting them on a regular income. There was a meeting of all the elders of the village. Well, I say the elders, it'd probably be better to say the heads of the households of the area. And they knew that we had been instrumental in that project. And they all came out, and many of them got up and made speeches saying how the project had just changed their community. Some of the mothers said that for the first time in ages, because their men had made some money planting, they were able to buy their kids clothes for schools and books. And then at one point in the meeting, one of the leaders stood up and at the end of his comment led the people in what can only be described as a cheer or urging them, throwing up their arms in the air saying we're going to continue and protect these trees like our eyes. And you realize that this project was a lot more than 65,000 trees. It was giving the community back its dignity and its hope for the future. And that's why we're going to continue with this project. Talk about a community buy-in. Just look at this. Everybody's here, proud of what they've done, showing us their work, picks on their back. I mean, this is their project, and they're proud of it. This is what aid should do. It should engage the community, and we should become their partners. They're not beneficiaries, these people. They're doing it themselves.
This is a place where women and children come early in the morning when the water is clean, before cattle come to drink. They take water for house, for cleaning and drinking.
Well, in this area in 2009, we protected 2 springs and we dug 8 wells and all 10 are functional.
So last year when we visited this project, the girls were getting water directly from the stream. They were standing in it. It wasn't very sanitary.
The girls were lifting dirty water in little cans from streams and filling usually 30-liter urns or jerry cans with water. Time-consuming process. The stream would be shared by cattle, just not a good scene. And at each one of those sites, they'd installed water facilities. The water facility basically was a pump or a spring to which pipes had been attached.
Okay, this is the head of the spring that we're hoping to capture and protect for these villagers.
Spring walls is over there, but when we dig and just ready to protect, the main eye of spring is over here.
Running down this pathway underneath the cement through loose stones, and at this point, the 2 pipes carry water to the distribution point.
Well, the community brought rocks and did all the excavation and the manual unskilled work, and they all, in total they shared 18% of the cost of this facility.
This year we have fresh running water that's safe to drink and easy access, and there's also a spot beside the water spigots where they can wash their clothes. Okay, so one of the advantages of having a ledge on a well is so when the women fill up their urns, they're able to avoid bending down to pick them up. They can just turn around, lift them on their back.
Good projects making a big difference, and this is an area where only 22% of the people have clean water. That is probably the lowest access to water ratio in all of Africa. That means that 78% of the people are drinking regularly dirty, unsafe water, and their kids are spending hours collecting it. So every community that where we put a well, it usually serves somewhere between 300 and 1,000 people. We're making a difference there that way. Instead of the girl doing it can by can of dirty water, she simply put her 30-liter urn underneath a tap or a faucet and filled up in seconds with clean water and went home. Bottom line is the community is not going to be as susceptible to waterborne diseases. Girls are not going to spend nearly as much time collecting water as before, and personal hygiene will improve tremendously. One of the important objectives of Partners is to keep girls in school. We think, and we're not alone in this, most experts have concluded that the surest way to improve living standards in Africa is to educate women and thereby educate a whole family.
This project started out as a project aimed at keeping girls in school by being able to provide them with reusable sanitary pads. I think the incredible thing about this project is that it's turned into a project that really supports women at both ends of it. At the front end of it, we are fabricating and developing reusable sanitary pads that we're distributing to thousands of rural schoolgirls. But at the production stage, we are working with a partner in Addis called WISE that is in microfinance, and that the women that are producing these pads are some of the most impoverished women in Addis. They're employing young girls that work with them, and so that it's creating a livelihood for them.
This sanitary pad project is run in collaboration with the partners in the Horn of Africa. WISE stands for Women in Self-Employment. We are a local charitable organization established to support poor women who are in self-employment. We have organized women into an enterprise, and they've been trained in the production.
After 3 years, we are now at the point we're producing 40 to 50,000 pads a year.
These 4 girls are employees of these 4 enterprise owners. You know, the enterprise of the production of sanitary pads. They said that this project has made a significant change in the quality of their lives. You know, they earn now monthly, you know, a regular income, and they say that in the morning they get up and, you know, take their bags and come to work. That itself is a big change in their lives.
So one of the things that we take for granted here in our society is that women and girls can participate fully in society when they have their periods. And I was shocked to find in Africa that that's not the case, that girls don't go to school when they have their period, particularly in rural Africa and Ethiopia, because they don't have any access to sanitary pads.
You know, girls in schools, especially in rural areas, cannot afford, you know, the normal pads that are available in the market. So these pads can be used again and again, so that, you know, the cost is much less, and especially currently, since they are subsidized by the partners in the Horn of Africa.
We get 2 pairs of good panties, put fasteners on them, and give each girl 2 pairs of panties, 8 pads. Probably will last her a year or 2. We sell them to her for about $1, make them for $5, and distribute them to poor rural farm girls.
So what ends up happening to these girls is that without any access to sanitary napkins or supplies, is they end up with a sentence that really puts them in a mud hut for the duration of their menstrual period.
But what the girls said was that for the first time in their lives, they were able to feel comfortable in school during the period, that they were able to play outside with the boys, that they no longer had to stay at home. It just really had changed their lives.
This project empowers women at both ends, young girls to stay in school in rural Ethiopia, and women who are in abject poverty to gain employment and to be able to help their families and themselves come out of that situation. And so I consider this to be a win-win project, and one that really empowers girls and women throughout Ethiopia.
One of the huge problems in schools is that Ethiopia is now trying to convert from a shift system of 2 shifts a day for 2 sets of students to 1 set of students. And of course, as a result of that, plus the burgeoning population, is there not enough classrooms. So what we're now doing, we're moving into the rural school area, building new classroom blocks, renovating old ones.
Okay, so we're at Dembecha Elementary School, and it's a school that we visited last year. We've improved a number of the classrooms.
This is a Chika school building, and this is on the same school grounds at Dembecha. This building is still being used by the kids. There are holes in it, it's falling down, it's got dirt floors. and it's not a good learning environment, period. We're now coming into a classroom that's not been renovated yet. It's still used. This would be much more typical of a rural school room in Ethiopia. And what classrooms are often, kids end up sitting on horrid benches or rocks or logs that their parents have brought to school.
A year ago, if you came here, you would see kids sitting on the floor. There was no cement floor. And the walls, this mud wall was about to fall down.
Over here we have classrooms that we're going to visit now.
Well, my husband's a teacher, and he'd be very impressed with the classrooms here. There's lots of interactive materials. The teachers have tons of stuff up on the wall. There are teaching utensils. They have interactive stations. They're really doing hands-on learning. And the kids look enthusiastic and excited, and the teachers are committed. I'm really impressed. I'm really proud to be part of this project.
We've renovated the 4 classroom blocks here, and that meant putting cement floors in them and foundations. We've also put a biogas digester in that takes the waste from the kids' latrines. So here we have the latrines, and the latrines will feed into the biogas digester, which will be placed here. It's a large concrete dome. The gas from the top of that digester will feed a bakery where the children make bread. The effluent, after it's been neutralized, will go out to a discharge hole. The gas will force the hole in the back. It'll be used for the vegetable garden, which is tended by the orphan children at the school. And there's quite a few orphans in this community because there's a high incidence of HIV. Vegetable garden, the kids sell the vegetables from it, again to support themselves.
And one of the classrooms that they have in this school is a classroom for special needs children.
Class special need class. የነሱ የላቸውም በግላቸው እየገዙ ነው የሚጠቀሙና ደግሞ በጣም ይወዳሉ አሁን የሷ የላትም
and those kids include kids with blindness, hearing loss, and physical disability, and they have integrated those children into the school here. This is, of all of the schools that we've seen in Ethiopia, this is the only school that I've seen where they have special needs classes and where they have attended to the needs of these children.
አበባዬ ሆይ ባልንጀሮቼ ቁሙ በተራ እንጨት ሰብሬ ቤት እስክሰራ እንኳን ቤትና የለኝም አጥር እደጃ ጣለው ኮከብ ስቦጥ ወበል ማሲንቆ ወበል ክራር ዝፈን አገሬ ወበል ዋሽንቴ አንተ ማሲንቆ ስታይ ሰው ታርኮ እንኳን አደረሰ ለአዲስ ዘመን ዘመኑ ጀመር ነው ይታደም ለዓለም
Whether you come here yearly or not, your activity, your support will be remembered by the community, by the generation, forever. The activity of partners in the Horn of Africa will be remembered to the last, they are saying, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
See you.